November 11th of 2025, Jupiter stations retrograde in the sign of Cancer, and it's actually one of the most positive transits we can experience. So in today's video, I'm going to share everything you need to know about this transit so you can align to it to your benefit. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Isabel, your spiritual rebel friend, and today we're talking about Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Cancer, what it all means and how it's impacting you. So in today's video specifically, I'm going to cover Jupiter retrograde in Cancer of 2025, the details you need to know about this transit, how it's affecting each zodiac sign, and practical tips to align to this transit to your benefit. So if you're someone who's looking to understand astrology, but also is more so wondering, how does this change my life? How can I use this in application to my life? What do I actually need to do or think differently? Watch through to the end of this video where, as always in my videos, I talk about practical guidance for aligning to these transits to your benefit. Because in the end, yes, astrology is fun to study. It's fun to learn about. It's fun interpretations, but it's also one of the most powerful practical tools we can use to change our lives and live a life that we love. And if you want to learn more about your unique astrological birth chart and how it's being impacted by Jupiter stationing retrograde in Cancer and so much more happening in the stars, then I invite you to book a reading down in the description box below, where in 30 minutes or 1 hour, we can dive deep into your soul's unique energetic imprint, your life struggles, your life challenges, your unique desires, and how you can use astrology as a tool to find greater clarity and fulfillment. Sky's the limit with these readings. Learn more down below and drop a comment down below if you have any questions. With that all out of the way, let's talk about Jupiter stationing retrograde in the sign of Cancer. And starting off with bringing back an old video that I talked about with the weekly forecast I did about Jupiter retrograde as overall themes. On the 11th of the month, when Jupiter stations retrograde in Cancer, this is a time for us that begins to focus on receiving the wisdom and expansion that we've been cultivating over this year. Jupiter has already gone retrograde once this year, technically, at the beginning of the year, but this is Jupiter's first and I believe final retrograde cycle in the sign of Cancer. Jupiter's been in Cancer since June 9th of 2025. And so we have been since then expanding our capacity to receive emotional fulfillment and security and nurturance in a certain field of our life. I invite you to, while I say this, think about, since June of this year, where have you been seeking a greater sense of emotional fulfillment, emotional security, and have been developing your relationship to feeling your feelings? This is the area of life where you've been expanding, you've been growing this, and now as Jupiter stations retrograde, this is a time of integrating that which you have expanded. Jupiter is, I think of like stretching a muscle. So when Jupiter's in direct motion, we are stretching and expanding our flexibility, but we don't want to overstretch a muscle. And so that's why we also have Saturn, which is the strengthening. But Jupiter is where we, when retrograde, where we take a moment to pause and stop the stretch, to observe, how do we feel? Are we stretching enough? If we continuously stretch a muscle, we can risk snapping the muscle or overstretching, and that's not what we're going for. So Jupiter retrograde is the necessary time we need to take a moment of pausing the stretching to actually utilize, I would say, the flexibility in this metaphor. So Jupiter retrograde in Cancer is your time to notice how far you've come in your ability to honor your emotions. It's a time to notice how much you've expanded your desires and see how you've developed your emotional needs, and also see how you have developed your ability to get those emotional needs met. Chances are, since June, there's been an area of life that has expanded for you, where you feel this sense that I truly have more emotional security, stability, and fulfillment here. So Jupiter retrograde this week, starting on the 11th, alongside with Mercury retrograde, is really inviting a pause. So just in case I didn't already mention it, once again, Jupiter stations retrograde on November 11th, where it will remain retrograde until March 10th of 2026. Jupiter does an annual time frame retrograde. So it goes retrograde in every sign that it transits. And so this is Jupiter's first and final retrograde, I believe, that it will do in the sign of Cancer. Again, this is all about integration, as I'm sure I've mentioned, and you've heard me say, especially if you're on my weekly newsletter that is free that you can join down below. So with Jupiter stationing retrograde in Cancer, this is a time for us now of integrating the emotional needs that we have expanded upon and learning how to incorporate basically these expanded desires into our life. It's also about us learning how to integrate the wisdom that we've gained. So over the period of Jupiter being in Cancer, you've probably learned new things about your emotional needs, your framing of your perspective on the idea of emotional security. And you maybe even had physical expansion of that. Maybe new partners have come in, new emotional connections, new ways of emotionally supporting yourself. And now you're being asked to integrate these things. But what exactly may be coming up for you and how exactly this is showing up in your life is dependent on your sign. So I want to go into some quick all signs horoscopes on how Jupiter retrograde is affecting you, what may be coming up, and then we'll talk about practical application tips for you all, that sounded weird, for all signs, that is applicable to all signs. And I'm going to separate these horoscopes by element. So I recommend you watch just for your sun sign or just your rising, depending on which resonates more for you. If you can handle a lot of data, listen to your big three, sun, moon, and rising, but there's no need to do so in order to understand how Jupiter retrograde is affecting you. So for my fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, Jupiter stationing retrograde in Cancer activates your houses of seclusion and vulnerability, as I would call them. Close your eyes and think for a minute. Where do I feel most safe to be vulnerable? Is it a person? Is it a place? Is it your home? Is it in solitude? Whatever comes to mind, I want you to picture that. Keep that in mind, because this is where you are being asked to focus on integration as Jupiter stations retrograde in Cancer. This means that likely for my fire signs, you guys have all gone through a phase of developing your needs for emotional security and what that looks like to you in these more vulnerable realms. You're learning how to open up to people and find a sense of security in vulnerability. And now with Jupiter retrograde, you're seeing the fruits of your labor. You've been maybe pushing for this vulnerability from yourself, pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, and now you're getting to see what this security can look like now that you are able to become more secure in these moments of vulnerability and in these more vulnerable spaces. This could also mean something is happening with your closer relationships, your relationship to yourself, or your home life potentially, especially for my Aries sun and risings. For my earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn sun and rising, Jupiter stationing retrograde in the sign of Cancer on November 11th activates your social spheres. You've been learning how to find more emotional security in yourself and with others in some of your social spheres. So I want you each to close your eyes for a minute, pause this video, and think about, when I think about my social connections, which have been most dominant for me? Is it your lover? Is it your friend? Is it a friend group? Is it your community? Is it your local network, your run club, your social clubs? Whatever it is that comes to mind, this is where you have been focusing the most on bringing an expanded sense of emotional connection and security. And now as Jupiter stations retrograde, you're being asked to see how far you've come. Look at how much emotional security you have brought to these social spheres. This is a time to integrate and see how you have shifted your response to others and how you bring your emotional connection into these more social spheres. This is probably a time where many of my earth signs can be seeing, wow, I really learned how to open up to people. Now where do I want to take this? What have I learned about this? It sounds as silly as it sounds. Integrating wisdom, though it can feel like a very simplistic process oftentimes, it's very impactful. So this is a time for you earth signs to think about, how have I shifted in my approach to social interactions? What have I learned? How have I grown? And where do I want to take this going forward? Maybe you're learning how to come from a more giving place in your social spheres as well. For my air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, sun and rising, Jupiter stationing retrograde in the sign of Cancer is all about your career and finances. Over the past couple of months, since Jupiter's been in Cancer since June of 2025, you have been expanding your emotional fulfillment in your career and in your material security. So I want you air signs to close your eyes and think for a minute. When I say career, finances, budget, financial security, success, profession, What comes to mind? Is it your work? Is it your job? Have you had a lot going on in your job? Have you been working on expanding your budget? Have you been working on managing your finances better? Have you had a payment of some kind that has been serving you, that you've been trying to take on maybe more financial responsibility for the sake of emotional security? Whatever comes to mind, that is what is in focus for you during Jupiter retrograde. You are realizing how far you've come and getting to integrate a greater sense of emotional security in these realms. So for my air signs, what I would see happening is that you've been pushing for some form of greater fulfillment in your career or finances, and now you get to receive that. This can be a time where maybe spending slows down or work slows down, and you really get to step into that mode of softening in your career and finances. Less pushing, more receiving. And this is a very beautiful thing for you, earth signs or air signs. And finally, for my water signs, Scorpio, Pisces, and Cancer, Sun and Rising, Jupiter stationing retrograde in a fellow water sign of Cancer is inviting you to realize how far you've come and who you are, what you believe, and what you love. This can feel like since June roughly of 2025, my water signs, you guys have been focusing on developing who you are, expanding who you are in some form or fashion. I want you to think for a moment what that journey has looked like for you. Have you been focusing on self-development, inner work? Have you been developing your passions? Have you been focusing on studying more religions and ideologies to cultivate your personal beliefs? Have you been trying to explore more and step outside of your comfort zone? Whatever it is, now you can be expecting to feel a slowdown in a very positive way to see how far you've come in developing yourself. This is a time for you to notice how much you've changed, observe how you've shifted, and notice the emotional fulfillment specifically that this is bringing to your life by making these changes. So if you're thinking maybe your horoscope was accurate and maybe you're wanting to align to the energies of Jupiter stationing retrograde in Cancer, how do you do so? I want to take the last few minutes of this video to talk about some practical application, at least as practical as possible, to align with the energies of Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, specifically kind of sharing with you how I personally look at these transits. And I'll probably share a bit of my own story of how this is affecting my chart to give you guys a bit more of that perspective. Overall, retrogrades, no matter the planet, are an opportunity to slow down. We live very fast-paced lives, and some of us, this serves us very well. Those who have stronger, I would say, fire placements, like 6th house in Aries, as I've talked about recently on my channel, yes, they want to be on the go. But we all need a moment to pause and reflect. We always talk about I study the Kabbalah, the idea of pausing, specifically through David Guillaume. He talks about pause, what a pleasure. And retrogrades remind us to take that pause, but not only for the sake of not being reactive, but for the sake of receiving. I think of this especially when we, in recent times with recent interactions, how much the most giving thing we can oftentimes do is receive. If we're always on the go, if we're always moving fast through life, if we're always hurried, if we're always going to the next thing, we can't quite receive what is right in front of us. It's like if we're always cooking a meal, we can't enjoy the meal we've created. And so with Jupiter direct, we can kind of imagine it like it was this cooking phase, this meal prep phase, this baking phase where things were in the oven. And now with Jupiter retrograde, how I see it is we are now being asked to receive, to take that out of the oven, to finish, turn off the stove, pour our meal and see how far we've come, to see the nurturance and integrate. We don't always need more, we need integration. To put this in a bit more, still metaphorical but relevant term, Jupiter is stretching. And when we have Jupiter retrograde, it's like we're taking a pause. If you've ever done yoga, we know we have these activations where we really lean into stretching the muscle more actively and then relaxing. Like especially when we do our sun salutations, we do our bow forward, we extend the spine to stretch that muscle a bit more and expand, and then we relax into a more compressive forward fold. And that's what Jupiter retrograde is really all about. It's that relaxation from taking a more active stretch. So it's letting ourselves soften even further. And this goes so far beyond the stereotypes of what I hear with retrogrades, which is you're going to lose something, something's going to happen. Retrogrades are so fear-mongered when really they're an opportunity to reflect, look at the past and see how far you've come. So for practical application, the number one thing I'd recommend is starting off with asking yourself, what would feel like an extra level of relaxation for me? What would feel like an extra sigh of relief? Imagining visually that idea of how we kind of get in a yoga practice when we're not actively stretching a muscle and taking on a more soft yin restorative posture. What would feel like that in your life right now? Is it taking something off your plate? Is it changing a mental expectation of yourself? Is it changing an expectation on others? Is it doing more with other people? What would get you into this mode of feeling softer in a more relaxed posture of life? Additionally, with Jupiter retrograde, specifically writing out how far have I come in my emotional development, or specifically, how have I changed my needs through emotional development over the past couple of months. I think for me, I would specifically frame this as how Cancer energy in general brings us this desire for emotional security. And I think for me, even looking back over June, I've put a lot of intention into shifting what emotional security means to me. So how has your relationship and definition of emotional security changed over this summer and fall? Maybe thinking about how your emotional desires have shifted, emotional security, your relationship even to embracing your emotions has changed over this year. It can be extremely impactful. Retrogrades invite us to look over the past. So really make that time to look over the past and see how much you've changed. And with that, take it a step further. Once you've seen what has changed for you, asking yourself, what is the wisdom that has been gained from this? What have I learned from this? And then the next step that we are invited to do, as we are all here to create positive impact in this world, is how can I share that wisdom with other people? And that doesn't mean we're going around preaching it. It could just simply be, how can I share modeling this better? I think for me, because my moon is in Cancer, and this has been really a phase of me developing what emotional security means for me and one-on-one relational dynamics, I have been asking myself more and more how this has shifted over this year so far, and also, where do I see people who need this modeled? How can I open up a bit more about what has been going on in my relational dynamics and share what I've learned with people in a vulnerable setting to help give them that guidance to create that emotional security for themselves? That's how I personally see that playing out for me. That's probably because this is happening in my 7th house, which is all about one-on-one dynamics. And that also implies that not only is my one-on-one dynamics what's been most affected, but this is where I can bring this most positive impact. For you, it might be different, but simply put, Jupiter retrograde asks you to reflect, revisit the past. With it being in Jupiter specifically involved, what is the wisdom gained here? What have you stretched and how can you receive? And specifically thinking about what that more soft, permissive mode of being would be, and shifting the thoughts, expectations, and feelings that get you into that more yin state. So let me know down in the comments below, did this video help you understand what is coming up over the next couple of months with Jupiter stationing retrograde in Cancer for its first and final time before it enters Leo in the upcoming year of 2026? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about how exactly Jupiter retrograde, Mercury retrograde, other transits are affecting you, book a reading. Also, in the end, all transits are just highlighting parts of your chart that are deeply and innately part of you. So if transits are overwhelming for you, let this be your permission to not have to research them. In the end, going deep into your chart and understanding these aspects of your personality can be extremely impactful and life-changing. So if you want to learn more about your birth chart as well, readings are perfect for you. Sky's the limit with these readings. I have multiple different kinds of reading options available, including one that's called the I don't know reading. Because if you don't know what exactly you want to discuss in a reading, but you are curious to learn about astrology, this option is designed for you just to say as a starting point, I want to learn more. I don't know what I exactly am asking. I just know that I need to learn more or want to learn more about this astrology thing. So learn more about readings down in the description box below. Please comment below if you have any questions. Share this video if you found it insightful, and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Stay tuned for more videos. Final note. If you found today's format very nice and you want to have it in written form, if you like this approach to astrology, you like the practical guidance that also incorporates hopefully a bit of more spiritual perspectives, then join my free weekly newsletter. I send 2 emails a week, one about the transits, one about birth chart astrology, so that you can understand how to practically apply astrology to your life in small bite-sized doses. So that's down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sincerely hope you enjoyed. Once again, my name's Isabel. From my heart to yours, namaste.